In federal courthouse yesterday as a judge blocked the ICE deployment at least for 14 days. There may be another hearing on that somewhere around the 22nd or the 23rd of this month. But the Broadview mayor even enacted new protest hours out there between the hours of 9 and 6 o'clock. And so some of the protesters that have been going out there, not too happy about their new business hours, if you will, for protesting out there and exercising their First Amendment rights. The protesters also have a set location to exercise their free speech. When they first started, and they said they were going to do this for about 45 days, but when they first started out there, there were really no rules of engagement out there. And so they were all around the ICE facility. They began to kind of split the group from the front of the facility to the side on 25th Street. That became an issue as the agents were trying to get in and out of the facility with their vehicles. So some things have changed there. Also, a separate judge ruled against instances of excessive force by the agents. We have seen not only those chemical agents, but we've seen several videos that have even gone viral where, one in particular, where there was a minister, a priest who was out there and he was hit with a rubber bullet, or those who have been peppered with those rubber bullets out there as they've been protesting. And just this morning, yet another judge ruled that the fences that you're even seeing here right on those sides, that they must come down. That was a suit that was brought by the city of Broadview. They felt like the fences that were out there were hindering first responders from getting to where they needed to go, emergency services, your ambulance, and things of that nature. If they needed to get down that street, they couldn't because of all of the fences that went up. So there were several different issues that all went to court. Several of them went to court this week that they were trying to kind of sift through there in terms of this ongoing, the ongoing protests that have been happening at the Broadview ICE facility. We've seen an increase not only in the federal agents who have been out there, but about 2 weeks ago we started to see more Illinois State Police and Sheriff's officers who were out there as well, as the Broadview Police asked for assistance. And that particular police department only has about 25 officers. So they asked for assistance. ISP came in full force, and that has definitely helped out in terms of kind of keeping the peace out there. It actually ended up as a part of the lawsuit, the state of Illinois and the city of Chicago versus Donald Trump and his administration that went to the federal courthouse yesterday. The judge talked specifically about the fact that if ISP came and you indicated, ICE and ISP indicated that things were going well, then you don't need the National Guard. You don't need the military. That's coming from Judge Perry yesterday in court. So a lot of things that are still taking place. Again, there were major rulings this week that have changed what we've seen as things were consistently escalating. Today, things have been mildly peaceful. I believe only 3 or 4 arrests have been reported out there. So we're going to continue to watch and see what is happening there. And again, just as soon as Senators Duckworth or Senator Durbin goes to that mic, we're going to hear from them. We also have our political reporter, Paris Schutz, who is out there. So he'll be able to ask them some questions, I'm sure, and then we're going to talk to him so we can find out a little bit more about what he's hearing out there, what feeling he's getting out there. Again, the protesters have a zone now that they have to stay in. So he's on one side. The protesters are around the corner in a protest zone that they have to stay in now. And we'll talk more about that as things have been changing out there. But again, a fairly peaceful day, and definitely compared to what we have seen in the last 3 to 4 weeks. So we're continuing to watch that developing situation, and just as soon as we get some information coming out of it, we're going to bring that to you. Also today, we have plenty more things to get to. Alderman Ray Lopez is going to be joining us any minute now. He just sent a letter to the president asking for a pretty extraordinary measure. So I'm really looking forward to a conversation with him where we can talk a little bit more about what he is expecting to get from that. We'll talk with him on the opposite side of this break. everyone. So again, we are still waiting on that press conference to begin. Our friend Alderman Ray Lopez is here to talk a little bit more about a letter that you just sent to the president. I want to thank you for your time.
No, my pleasure. Happy to join Chicago Live today, Anita.
And of course, I got to let you know, if we do get that press conference, I'm going to have to halt you so that we can go straight to that live, all right?
Fair enough. I guess I will defer to Durbin for once.
For once. We can do it for today. Okay, so you sent out a tweet, and it says, in an effort to stand above the rhetoric and political performances, I have sent a letter to POTUS, President of the United States. What was your request?
So, in no short order, it's to get beyond the politics of what we're seeing. We're seeing both extremes, both Republican and Democrat, going in opposite directions, while forgetting the fact that all of this is about what do we do with the millions of undocumented, not just in Chicago, but in the United States. And what I challenged Donald Trump to do is to be greater than Ronald Reagan in granting pardon and a pathway for amnesty and citizenship to the millions of long-term undocumented individuals, roughly 11 million people in the United States alone, so that they can have a path to come out of the shadows, so that we could bring them back into our economy, and so that they can feel safe in their own neighborhoods, as well as addressing the 15 million migrant asylum seekers that are also here, who have temporary protective status, have legal status, but yet their asylum claims aren't going to be adjudicated for another decade. So let's figure out where they fit into all of this, but let's start doing something. Let's start finding solutions, as opposed to just on the Democratic side saying fight, 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 and on the Republican side saying go, go, go.
You invoked President Reagan. Is that your greatest political,
He's not my idol,
okay.
if that's what you're going to ask. But he did have a serious and profound impact on the undocumented community. Many people in communities that I represent, families I know, and even members of my own family, were the recipients of that, and have been able to grow and prosper in the United States because Reagan took a stand and said, we need to fix this. And in the nearly 40 years since that action, we've seen where immigration laws and enforcement have kind of gone sideways thanks to both parties. Nobody's off the hook on this.
Yeah.
But if the president is true to his word, and we've seen where he's been living out exactly what he's campaigned upon, we cannot forget that he said he wants to go after the worst of the worst, that he wants to rectify and secure the borders and create legal ways that work, but he also said that he wants to give DACA-eligible individuals a path to citizenship. So let's get back to that. Let's have the Democratic Party get back to that and focus on solutions, because truth be told, we have 3.5 years of Donald Trump. If we don't figure out a path for the undocumented, they are going to live in a state of fear that will be insurmountable. And I'm not for that, and I think most of the 85% of the United States that's not on the fringe believes that as well.
Yeah, let me ask you your reaction to some of the things that we have been seeing. You talked about people coming out of the shadows. We have seen more people skate back into the shadows, not go to restaurants that they used to frequent, or grocery stores that they used to frequent, or holding passports on them just in case if they do come out. We've seen people sitting in lines to pick up their children who have been picked up. So there is a culture of fear right now among the immigrant community.
Absolutely, and it's painful to watch as somebody who, my family came here 100 years ago. My husband is a first-generation American. I was there when he got citizenship. We should be able to lift everybody up. I want the United States to be the country everyone wants to come to if they're willing to make it a better place. And what we're seeing now is that we're shoving everyone back into their own corners simply because one side wants to show that they're standing up to the other, and vice versa. That is not conducive for any community, let alone the undocumented community. And we keep saying and talking about this in broad strokes, but there's nuance to this.
For sure.
And we need to get back to having government that understands nuance and compromise. And I believe that this letter, which is already getting trashed on both sides.
I'm shocked.
Shockingly. But that's good, because that means if both sides are angry, that means we can focus on the center, because what I'm also seeing is a vast majority of middle-of-the-road people saying, I might not agree with it, but this is a great start to a conversation. And that's what we need to get back to, talking to each other, engaging with the president, again, because he's going to be here for a while, and figuring out what we can do forward together.
Yeah, so you said it's getting reaction already. Let me ask you a couple of things about that. One, just the basic, like what are some of the things that are being said about it?
I think from both sides of the political aisle, neither one of them is happy. Nobody wants to work with Donald Trump. Nobody wants to work with Democrats. To be expected in a very polarized political environment. But at the same time, there are many other voices who are also saying we need to come up with something now because we've allowed this to get to this point. Reagan gave us a reset button, which I always talk about, but we failed to act on that reset. And we know that Donald Trump wants to cement his legacy in history, and this would absolutely give him the opportunity to do something great for America that will have a lasting impact and hit the reset button. There are 11 million long-term undocumented people in the United States, 15 million individuals who claim asylum from the last administration, and however many more that we don't know that have been gotaways or are here. We're talking roughly 30 million people that we need to come up and figure out a path for. And even if 2/3 of them come through and are stabilized in this country, that will solve and alleviate, hopefully, a lot of the infighting that we have, as we're seeing in Broadview. Because right now, a lot of the anger that we see in communities, the anger from protesters is that, you know, it's the tamale lady that's getting taken, the wrong person's getting taken. So fine, so let's take that off the table and say, everyone without a criminal record, come over here. Everyone who's been here for 10 years or so, just waiting for their moment, this is it. If that's not you, we'll deal with you in a very different way. But everybody else, let's figure this out. And I think now is our opportunity to do it. Everyone always says, can you trust Trump? He's remained committed to what he said he was going to do from the beginning. I say, let's call it and see what he says.
So on that note, the second part of my questions on this particular topic, do you think you've gotten some response from people who have seen it, you know, or at least seen your tweet? Do you think it's going to make it all the way to the president? And what do you think his response would naturally be?
I believe that we'll be able to get this before the president of the United States. So
do you have some type of inclination that it could make it to him?
Yes.
Okay.
I have both a direct and indirect path to get it to the White House because, you know, I'm just a Chicago alderman. I don't have delusions of grandeur that I could tell the president what to do, but I do know how to get things to him, and we're going to make sure that we do everything we can, as well as spark the conversation, because the more people we have talking about it, the more likely we're going to see some movement from the White House on down. And as well, I would challenge everybody watching and all the elected officials from Springfield to the county to the city to stand up and say, let's get back to what we need to talk about, which is a path forward for individuals.
Speaking of elected officials, I believe 2 are speaking right now. Let's listen in really quickly.
Thank you, Dick. Thank you, Senator Durbin. Again, this is about people exercising your First Amendment rights. We're not stronger when we don't adhere to the rule of law. We're not stronger when we trample on our Constitution. And I just want to thank the protesters who are out here. Please remain peaceful, but thank you for exercising your First Amendment right. It's why I served for 23 years in the National Guard. I want to thank our law enforcement officers. They are doing a remarkable job as that buffer. And again, it is appalling that 2 United States senators are not allowed to visit this facility. What are you afraid of? Is what I want to ask Christina. What are you afraid of? If you don't hide, you don't run away when you're proud of what you're doing. You don't bash yourself when you're proud of what you're doing over there. And so I say again, let us in. We asked the regional head of DHS to let us in and to come meet with us, and he's refused so far. We're going to press the case. Last night, for the first time in my entire political career, both in the House and the Senate, I voted against the defense budget. And I voted against it because what they're doing with the National Guard, their exploitation of our military to use them to try to scare and occupy our streets. This is not what America's about. This is why we fought the revolution. This is why we got rid of the British, because they used to do this. This is not America. And so I, again, want to thank our protesters for what you're doing. We're going to continue to push as hard as we can from where we are in the Senate to get truth and transparency. Thank you all. Thank you.
We're going to do immediate Q&A back in the state hearing.
I thought that it was, well, I want to thank Duke Durbin for the hard work that he has done over the last several years to see judges do a fair and impartial, and we'll win these court cases in part because of the work that we've done. But this is also what the judges have said, not just our judge here in the Chicagoland area, but also in Portland, also in California. They've made it clear that the Trump administration claims that there is turmoil on the streets are not based in reality. Basically, they're lying. We have peaceful protesters. Our law enforcement are more than capable of doing their job. If Donald Trump truly cared about violence on our streets and crime, then he wouldn't have diverted $800 million in funding that Congress appropriated for law enforcement efforts, for violence prevention efforts, for child protective services efforts. He has literally defunded the police. And so then he turns around and wants to occupy our streets. That's not acceptable. We're going to go now, go over and thank our
Do you
state.
know if the National Guard is still here?
I do not know.
Are you going to go in?
They're not letting us in. We're trying to let us in. Senator Durbin, he's been in before. I've never been in there. It was never a problem to get in before. So this is the first time that we've ever been blocked.
I used to go in with 2 Catholic nuns who every Friday prayed a rosary from Sister Pat and Sister Julia. And it was considered a normal thing.
Well, now they shoot Catholics. That's what they do here.
Now they shoot Catholics.
They shoot them in the head. That's what they do.
Unfortunately. I just want to say one other thing. The civic leaders, the business leaders in the city of Chicago, Elder President said, ask this president, don't send any troops. We don't need him to be safe, and the image of the city is not fair. This is a good place and a good place to live. Could we be better? Yes. We should work on that every single day. This negative image.
All right, so we had an issue there, and we are back here in Studio 32. But just to let you know, because I could hear it, he wasn't able to hear it. But first things first, they were reacting to the judge's decision about the deployment of the National Guard, blocking the deployment of the National Guard, but obviously still allowing other federal agents to carry out their mission in that area. What is your feeling on that judgment that came down yesterday?
You know, I read the judge's decision where she said that she didn't see evidence over the past 4 weeks that there was any need for additional support, and I question that. We've seen where the protesters have gotten aggressive. We've seen where ICE agents have gotten equally aggressive, and we've seen where both the state, local police departments, including CPD, have kind of stood by the wayside, not wanting to get in between the two, even though it's their responsibility to maintain peace. So I believe that that's a questionable judgment made by this in this case, because I would agree with her if our local law enforcement were actually separating the two, letting the peaceful protests go on over here and letting the agents do their job over here, but we know that simply has not been the case.
Yeah, and being in the courthouse yesterday and listening to Judge Perry, she talked about the fact that there's never been a group that was larger than 200 people, and especially the fact that once Illinois State Police got involved, once they were requested, and I think that's that big word, small word, but a big word in this case when it comes to the Guard and when it comes to this entire situation, once they were requested by Broadview Police, that it actually did make a difference. And there was like a communication between the Broadview Police, ISP, and ICE after last weekend saying what a great job they did in making a difference out there.
And I believe if that had been requested from the very beginning, we wouldn't even be in this.
That's fair.
So much of this is self-fulfilling prophecy, right? Like we say, we don't want to work with ICE, and yet we challenge them to go find people, and they do, and then we wonder why they're here. We say we don't want state police or local police. I've been asking for weeks, where's Broadview's police department in maintaining the safety out there just as a neutral party? But here we are. So I think that if all of this had started from the very beginning at this level, we would not be here today.
Yeah, another thing that they talked about was what they felt was the exploitation of the military. Senator Duckworth felt like it was exploitation of the military to bring Texas's National Guard here. Again, there were about 300 Illinois Guardsmen and 400 from Texas that came here that were mobilized but not activated. Let's listen in a little bit more, and then I'll come back to you on the opposite side of it.
Troops or troops from another. This is totally unnecessary. If you want to fight crime, this is diversion of crime, talent, people fighting crime, and a diversion of law enforcement from what they can be doing in our neighborhoods to make them safer. This political theater may have a lot of opportunities for television and such, but it doesn't get the job done of fighting crime. I couldn't agree more with Senator Duckworth. The resources that have been available through Washington have helped us bring down the violent crime rate, and we got to continue that effort. Shouldn't spare anything when it comes to this effort. But the diversion of so many resources in law enforcement to Broadview, Illinois, is an illustration of resources that should be spent in the community to make it safer. I'll work with any administration to reduce crime, but I certainly won't abide by this whole approach of mass deportation, taking innocent people out of their beds in the middle of the night, tying children's hands behind them, and taking them out to be interrogated. What is the life of that child going to be like from this point forward? Is anybody asking these basic questions? I'm afraid they're not doing as much as they should. Senator Duckworth and I are honored to be here today, and I'll turn it over to her.
Thank you, Dick. I couldn't agree with the ruling more in that it's been clear, not just here in Chicago, but also in the ruling in Portland, that the Trump administration's claims that local law enforcement is not capable of maintaining peace during the civil disobedience, with people out expressing themselves. That's not true. Our state police, our local law enforcement, our county sheriffs, our village police are doing their jobs, and we should let them do their jobs. The Trump administration has diverted over $800 million that Congress appropriated in a bipartisan way in order to fund violence prevention efforts, child protective services, also for training for police officers. They've actually diverted those funds away from law enforcement. If they cared about crime, they would put that money back where it belongs, with our law enforcement officers, so that they can do their jobs. But it is not appropriate to militarize our cities. It is not appropriate to activate National Guard troops and send them into our cities. Our National Guard men and women are doing a fantastic job. But you know what? They sign up to be tank drivers. They should be practicing driving tanks. They should be practicing to defend America against our enemies around the world. And that's what they would rather be doing. So what I've been saying to protesters, to people of Chicago, be kind to the guardsmen and women. They're here against their will. They're here because they were activated to come here. Maintain your protest. Say what you need to say. Do it peacefully. But I condemn what is happening with ICE, the work that they're doing, snatching people off the streets, shooting priests in the head who were guilty simply of a crime of praying, throwing smoke grenades in front of elementary schools. This is not America. This is not what this democracy is about. We just want to go in and look at this facility and see what the conditions are, and they will not let us in. It is shameful. You don't run and hide if you're proud of what you're doing. That's what ICE is doing right now.
Right here. Alex Gabriel, News Nation. What does it signal to you, the fact, News Nation, sir? What does it signal to you, the fact that the immigration officers and agents behind those closed doors aren't letting you in to see what's happening there?
This is the fourth time we've asked in the last several weeks. We started at the Great Lakes Naval Training Station. All along the way, we just want to be briefed on what they're doing, what their resources are, and what's happening in the streets. They've refused to tell us this information. I've done this job for a few years now. I've never had this kind of stonewalling by any presidential administration. Something's going on in there that they don't want us to see. I don't know what it is, but all Americans should be asking the same question. What is it? Can you justify it under the Constitution?
Senator,
yeah, go ahead. No, right here in the green jacket.
I really appreciate it. Just looking at the president's tactics thus far, we've had ICE deployed into Chicago and other cities. We've had the National Guard deployed into those cities. We've had now this restraining order, and now he's appealed while troops are expected to start deploying or patrolling in Memphis today. Like, looking at this just kind of continually whack-a-mole style tactic that you've had to employ to try to stop this, where does this end in your mind? Where does this go?
Well, let me make it clear what the Trump administration is trying to do. They are trying to normalize having troops on our streets. And they're doing this all across this great nation. They are trying to normalize an extension of presidential power that is not appropriate under the Constitution. They're trying to negate posse comitatus by redefining, by trying to define what is happening and claiming that there's an insurrection, that we are under invasion. These are language that are used on the posse comitatus, that are used within our Constitution, that they are perverting in order to keep troops, normalize troops on our streets. What are they trying to do? He's doing this to make sure that he can actually have these troops on our streets when it comes to elections. And we're not going to let that happen, because it is not normal. It is not constitutional, and it is against the law. It's been ruled to be so in Los Angeles, that you cannot do this, that you can't just activate troops. The stuff that he's doing,
U.S. Code 12406, yes you can.
the stuff that he's doing is against the law and has been ruled so in federal courts.
Any thoughts, Senator Durbin?
You said you would work with any administration to stop crime. The president has said that he's willing to work with you. Why not take him up on his offer?
The very point made by Senator Duckworth. When we look at his budget, he ends up cutting the very programs that our police have asked for and what they need. You know, they have a tough time recruiting new policemen. They're offering $50,000 incentives for those who will sign up for ICE. What about our local policemen? We need more on the streets and more doing the professional work there. Let's put the federal resources in with the state and local resources and do it together in a cooperative fashion, not force it down our throats of sending in troops from Texas.
So you don't think he's sincere?
No, I don't.
No, not at all. The $800 million that was appropriated was done so in a bipartisan way that he has now diverted away from what it was intended to do, which is to help local law enforcement.
What about the federal National Guard has been sent home? Are they still deployed? Are they still at the Army base in Elwood? Where are they right now?
The court ruling limits their activity. I'd have to look at the ruling in detail, but they spell out the cities that they can travel between for the time being under the TRO.
What about the federal officers that are being assaulted by the protesters? Should they be treated the same way as the J6ers that have assaulted federal officers?
Can I ask, so I'd like your reaction to the split screen here. The reduction in force notices have gone out across federal law enforcement. My first question, do you have any idea what the scope of those layoffs are? And then what is your reaction to the split screen? We're seeing federal workers laid off across the board while we're seeing National Guard deployed in Memphis. We're seeing ICE agents working on the ground, ICE agents who are not getting paid soon. What is your reaction to the split screen? And then if you have any information on the scope of the risks.
I don't have information on the scope of the risk, but we know that the Trump administration has been targeting federal workers. They've been firing federal workers from their first days on since they took office. Remember that they committed to firing 83,000 people from the Department of Veterans Affairs to deny veterans access to the care that they deserved and they've earned. They had a plan to basically fire 83,000 workers at the VA by the end of this year. They fired more veterans from their federal jobs than anywhere else in the nation's history. Donald Trump has been wanting to do this, right? He's been firing federal workers. And again, this is because of his own personal agenda. He told us what he was going to do with Project 2025, and they're carrying it out. And what we need to do is to push back as hard as we can, and we're doing that in Washington. We're in a shutdown right now. We're fighting to to force them to not allow our insurance rates to be raised. That's what's going to happen to millions of families across this country.
Mark October 27th on your calendar. That is the deadline day for the insurance companies, health insurance companies, to notify the families in Illinois about how much their health insurance premium is going up because of the big, beautiful budget bill that the president has signed into law. It's going to be dramatic. Average 114%. Your health insurance bill, if you're on americahealthcare.gov, is going to go up 114%. That is a hardship for families struggling to get by. That's part of the conversation. So if you want to split the screen, there's a third split in it. We want to make sure that these families are protected from these increases in health insurance premiums.
Senator, a federal judge ruled that this fence would come down, and you thank protesters for being out here every day. Your thoughts on the fence coming down? Do you know the timeline for that? I know proposals are due today.
I don't know what the timeline is, but what my thoughts are, I urge the protesters to remain peaceful. I urge the protesters to exercise their First Amendment rights, but to do it in a peaceful way and to respect law enforcement officers as they tell them what they need to do in order to keep everybody safe, but also allow them to express their opinions.
Senator, the president, for weeks prior to sending the National Guard here, had threatened to do it. He made good on that threat. He's now threatened to use the Insurrection Act to go around the courts. If that happens, what is the next step?
The courts are the next step. Quite honestly, we're in the minority in Congress. Limited opportunity to change policy, and of course the president is going to do what he wants to do regardless of the Constitution. The courts are the last step to stand up to him and tell him you can't break the law, you can't ignore the Constitution.
Thank you, everyone.
Senators, why are you guys against enforcing immigration law? 8 U.S. Code 1325 is illegal entry to the United States. Why?
Okay, so we've been listening in there to Senators Durbin and Duckworth as they've been peppered with questions from both sides, really, about things that are happening out there at the Broadview ICE facility, as well as healthcare and some other things. So Alderman Ray Lopez has been gracious enough to stay with us this afternoon. We appreciate you hanging for a little bit longer. Let me get your just final thoughts on, they went there to get into the facility to tour. They have gone multiple times and have been not allowed in. So their thought is, why aren't you allowing us in to inspect if you're proud of what you're doing out there?
Well, I would challenge both senators as well as the entire delegation. Rather than trying to go there to inspect, let's go there to put an end to this. Let's work together, cross the aisle, and find a pathway forward so we don't need these detention centers, so that we could actually bring people out of the shadows, as I said earlier, and start giving people a path towards citizenship. That's what they all should be working on. Put together a bill, introduce it, and then challenge the president to say, let's make some new citizens who can contribute fully into our economy and deal with the bad guys in a very specific way. Let's do that.
Okay, that goes back into your letter that you've already sent to the president, so please keep us updated on that.
Absolutely, we'll do.
All right, thank you so much. Have a great weekend. 1:35 right now. You can see the president right there making his way. We need to find out where he's on his way to, but we'll find that out, and we'll talk to you on the opposite side of the break about one of our national treasures, but especially a Chicago icon who has just recently passed away. We're going to talk a little bit more about Sister Jean on the opposite side of this break. All right, 1:37 right now. Right before we went to break, we showed you a live picture of the president arriving back at the White House. I was just kind of looking over his schedule for the day during our break here, and it says that he is getting ready to make an announcement in the 5 o'clock hour Eastern time, so about 4 o'clock our time with the White House press poll. So we do anticipate that happening a little bit later on this afternoon, but he was arriving back at the White House to make that announcement in just maybe about an hour and a half from now for their time. It should be 5 o'clock. You know, overnight we found out some heartbreaking, but also heartwarming news. It really depends on how you look at these things. We found out that Sister Jean from Loyola, Chicago, has passed away at 106 years old. What a life. What a legacy. We want to bring in Father Gilger. We appreciate you so much for your time. We've asked you, you're so nice, we asked you twice today.
I'm happy to be here with you.
You know, we were talking to you earlier just about some of your memories of Sister Jean. If people didn't hear you then, what's maybe something that sticks out as you says, you know what, people probably didn't know this about her?
You know, just one of my personal memories is a few years ago, I'm a member of the sociology department here at Loyola. And a few years ago, we had our annual Christmas party, our holiday party. And one of the faculty members is also a graduate of Loyola. He went to undergrad here. And so he knows Sister Jean very well and likes her very much and invited her to come and join us for our Halloween party, or excuse me, our holiday party. And so she rolls in her wheelchair, says hi to everyone, spends time, has a couple sips of wine. All of these things are really wonderful. Telling jokes, being funny, offering prayers, holding our hands. That's kind of how I remember her. And I think my students are going to remember her in the same way. Of course, we've seen her in public and doing all kinds of important things representing the university and the city of Chicago really well. But I'm going to remember those small moments where she was herself, funny, laughing, committed to this institution.
I absolutely love it. And again, that's a side of her that we did not get to see. It just humanizes her that much more. Talk about the basketball runs, though, that really introduced her to the nation at large.
Yeah, so we all remember that 2018 was the big run. So that's just a few years ago. She was already almost 100 years old by that point. And she, of course, was well known for offering in her prayers that time, but for years before and afterwards, little scouting reports in her prayers. I'm not sure if she was scouting the other team for God or for the players, but she would do all those kinds of things and got to be a real wonderful representative of the university. But I want to say one thing about her. It's that at an institution, a Jesuit Catholic institution like Loyola, we really rely on the long-term commitment of good people, women and men, religious and priests like myself or like Sister Jean, but also many good lay people, many of whom are not Catholic. We rely on their long-term commitment to these kinds of institutions. And Sister Jean was such a role model for me in that way, and my own commitment to Loyola and to Chicago, because she was here at this institution at Mundelein before that since 1961. So all of these years, just here day by day doing the work. So we know her from her fame in 2018, but how many years had she been committed to the students of this institution before that, just taking care of their hearts? That's how really I think she would want to be remembered.
Yeah, and it spoke volumes. Listen, even if we love our jobs, most of us have already started thinking about retirement or look forward to it. She didn't step away from Loyola until this year, really like in the last 6 weeks, if I recall correctly. That speaks volumes.
Yeah, you know, she was very committed. Yeah, you know, she could be, like many of us, like me, a little bit of a stubborn person, for the good or for bad and for good. All of those things are true. We love her as she was. But though that commitment, that stubbornness that she could have also meant that she was really ferocious in caring for people and in being persistent. You know, so the stubbornness is, you know, maybe that's true, but what also is true is that her heart was really filled by being around these young people, and she gave to them and received from them. She wasn't just somebody who was in, you know, lecturing and haranguing, but she got up every morning and really tried to live her life, as her book says, you know, wake up with purpose. Yeah. And she wrote this beautiful book, some of you may have seen, an autobiography with Seth Davis a few years ago, just talking about how she tried to wake up every morning, dedicating herself to the good of the world around her. Of course, for her, for me, that's because she really loved Jesus. She loved the church. And I know I was talking to one of my Jesuit brothers who was with her in these days as she was dying. She was praying the rosary, praying with him in these last days. So I know she felt very comforted by all the people who took very good care of her. One of those people taking care of her was our Lord.
Yeah, and that goes back into my initial conversation about, or my initial statements about, it kind of depends on how you look at it, because if you are of faith, you believe that she is in a better place, and that she's earned that place that she is in now. You know, 106 years old, that mentality that she had is vastly different from the youth that she interacted with on a regular basis. What do you think she imparted on them, and maybe some things that they imparted on her?
You know, I think one of the things that she did most importantly, most persuasively, was that she was a patient listener with these young people. So I know there were students of mine just in these last few years who would just swing by her office in the student center, the Damon Student Center here at Loyola. And she had an office right on the ground floor, right outside one of the dining halls, and was very happy to see them when they came by. But why did they go see her? Because lots of young people do not go see other older people, even people who are older than them like me, much less like her, where, 80 years older. They went to see her because they knew they would be paid attention to, taken care of. So yes, she had wisdom to impart, the wisdom from her life, the wisdom from her prayer, but she only offered that after having really listened to the young person who was in front of them. That's part of the reason they loved her so much, that, or why the bobbleheads that so many of us here at Loyola have of her are actually memorable, because this is somebody who we knew listened, hopefully the way the Lord listens to us.
Yeah, can you talk about the fact that a lot of people, like, once they get some fame or some social media fame, whatever it may be, they change. She, was beloved across the country, and it definitely seemed like she just continued to be Sister Jean.
Yeah. And she was somebody who, and I mean this an utter compliment, somebody who liked to be in the spotlight. And that's a good thing, because she used the spotlight for the right kinds of things. But you could see sometimes she would arrive there and she would be feeling, not so great or not so well. But then she said, no, now I have a time when I can offer something to all these people around, saying a prayer before the basketball games here at Gentile Arena, or being with other people at a particular event where she came to graduations, to commencements, to all the beginnings and ending ceremonies of our academic year at the university. People are always very happy to see her. Not just the basketball players, but also myself would give her little fist bumps as we went by on the entrance procession line. But I remember one little thing some of you will probably remember as well, when during the 2021 NCAA tournament run, she got one of these tweets at her saying, "Sister Jean doesn't want all this smoke." I think it was from a basketball player at Syracuse University. And she was not afraid of being in the spotlight there, and tweeted right back at this young man, of course funny but respectful, "I want all the smoke." And then all of that, from Dwayne Wade all the way down, all these other famous players are like, yeah, Sister Jean gets it. She likes being right in the heat, the fire of the battle, for the right kinds of reasons.
Oh, that's awesome. That is so awesome. We are in troubling times for a lot of people, and I think that when you see someone at 106 years old and someone of faith who passes away, you wonder the younger generation that may struggle with what's going on around them, and seeing someone of that age pass away. How do you help young people reconcile and maybe get to a stage of a Sister Jean one day? How do you help them to navigate the times that we're in and stay strong in the faith like that?
Yeah, the kind of sociological work I do, in addition to being a priest, I teach in the sociology department, and a lot of my research is on these kinds of things, trying to understand the social world, right, the culture in which young people are growing up today. And I want to say a couple things about that. One is that I'm very sympathetic, and I really love the students that are in front of me. I really care about them. I'm sympathetic for the challenges that they're undergoing. One of those challenges is that I think for young people today, even different than it was for me, being in college 20 years ago, they feel that the world is so much less stable than I felt it was. And because it's stable, they don't feel like they can lean on it or rely on it. And a lot of institutions, including the Catholic Church, that should have supported them and helped them to trust the world around them, have not done so. And so that lack of stability from the institutional level, the macro level, all the way down to their micro level gets inside of them. And so it can inhibit the kind of commitment that can lead to a 60-year commitment like it does for Sister Jean here at this university. But that doesn't mean that the hearts of these young people are any less desirous of seeking the good or of making long-term commitments. So one of the things I try to think about with them in the classroom and outside of that, and liturgies and in classes, is that how I can help them understand what their deep desires are to make a commitment for themselves and for the world, so that they can give the same kinds of gifts that Sister Jean gave. And we have lots of Muslim students here at Loyola. They can give that in a Muslim way. And we have lots of Protestant students here. They can do that in their way. And we have lots of Catholic students here, and we can do it in a Catholic way here. So I really can see that desire alive in their hearts. I am hopeful that in the midst of the challenges that these young people face, that they can also come to the courage and the conviction to really make a difference in their own lives and for the future of our very troubled world.
And for so many, Sister Jean, maybe they didn't know Loyola before Sister Jean. Maybe they found Loyola and maybe started to research more about what you all offered in terms of academics after seeing Sister Jean. What do you hope that they found? And, that this attention that came from seeing Sister Jean, this wonderful senior woman who just had a vibrant spirit about her, when they saw her and then they said, oh, Loyola, let me find out more about Loyola. What do you think they found?
What I really hope they found is the same kind of thing they found in the person of Sister Jean. So an institution that has a clear sense of its own mission and identity. We're a Jesuit and a Catholic institution, and we want to do good in the world in this way. But we're also an inclusive and a plural institution, and we make space for the people who come. And I think that they found that same kind of experience when their own encounters with Sister Jean. So we both want to have a clear sense of really who we are and what we are about, while saying, our arms are open, and we hope that you can come and find a way. These young people can come and find a way to belong within this place. Belonging is such an important word in these unstable times, and I think Sister Jean helped Loyola to be a place where people can feel that they belong. And I'm really trusting that that same kind of belonging will be able to continue, even though she'll have to do it in another state of being now, praying for us from heaven.
Father Patrick Gilger, we so appreciate it. I could talk to you all day because you're just such a light, and we appreciate you enlightening us about Sister Jean, who was just tremendous and left such a wonderful legacy of positivity. Thank you.
Very happy to be with you.
All right, everyone, 1:50 right now. We're going to be right back. All right, everyone, 1:53 right now. You know, we're coming up on the 2 o'clock hour. There's plenty more to get to, but some folks are already looking forward to 7:30 tonight. There is a major game, and I'm so excited to be able to talk to Coach Lou Sponsel from Fremd High School about this matchup that he has ahead. I know it is a busy day for you, so we certainly appreciate your time.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, so this is Fremd High School versus Barrington. Tell me what raises the stakes in this game.
Well, it's a big game for our conference. You know, the winner of tonight will be in the driver's seat for our conference, but high school football is great. It's all about, you know, neighboring communities and the kids you grow up with. It's a big challenge, and Barrington is one community over, and it's been a long rivalry with our communities. So I think it's one of those special times of the year. It's October, and both schools, everyone gets up for this one. It's a blast. This is why you coach, and this is why you play.
Big nights, Friday night lights. What are some of the things? You said everyone gets you know, hyped for this game. What are some of the things that happen before this game?
Well, it's game day. So, I mean, we have a blast at our school. The culture, the Instagram post, just seeing all the students in the hallways and you know, dressed up and the school spirit. Our school is a great place to be, not just academically, but just the culture in our school. It's fun, and Friday nights are for everyone. It's not just for a football team or the football parents. Friday night lights are special. It's something that everyone in the school, everyone in the community can rally around and really have fun with together.
Yeah, I really miss it. I have fond memories of those Friday nights when I was in high school. Tell me about your season thus far. Am I seeing this right, that you all are 6-0?
We are 6-0, yes. So it takes a lot to get there. So I think after, you know, you have some rough seasons, you have some great seasons, but you really, when you are 6-0, you appreciate every single minute you have with your kids, your staff, just everyone involved. It takes a lot of work. It's year round. The kids put in time in the off season, early mornings in the summer. And so when you are 6-0, you appreciate it. It takes a lot of work, but yes, it's a blast.
Yeah. Sometimes when you're 6-0, a part of the coaching is like staying in it and not overlooking or maybe not thinking as much of another team. Barrington is 5-1. That's a good competitor.
Yes, they are. They're the real deal. So I think it's going to be a championship caliber game tonight, and we have a lot of respect for them. And I think both staff and schools, they have a lot. There's a lot of respect there, and we know what we're up against, I think, on both sides. So yes, you know, you got to make sure that you just stay true to who you are, and yeah, you do what you do on the field, and make sure you go out there and compete and give it all you got.
Tell me a little bit about this squad that you have this year. What makes them different or special?
I think special. We have some phenomenal players. You know, we have Johnny O'Brien playing quarterback, who's one of the best players in the state. He's heading to Northwestern in January. Owen Jakubczak, he's also heading to Northwestern. And then we have just phenomenal seniors that have bought in over the years. Troy Pepe, Anthony D'Ambrosio. You can go right down the list. Athi Ragopoulos. Just a ton of seniors that play together, and they've done a great job with their young kids. So I think it's the culture of the program has really come together, and we love every day, and we go out and put the work in. But yeah, no, we do. We're lucky. We have some very special players.
Would you say that when people talk about your team, that they say, oh, they're like an offensive team, or they're a defensive team, or what is like the secret sauce for Fremd?
I think our offense is explosive, and we have some phenomenal two-way players like Marquand Brewster. I mean, he'll go out and play lights out on offense, and then he'll go out and play really tough defense. We spend a lot of time on special teams, but yeah, no, our offense, we can throw the ball. We're explosive. Biggest improvement for our program this year is we've been able to play really tough defense. And we get better and better every week in the special teams.
Yeah, I hear you have some Travis Hunters out there, essentially. For the kids who were on your team, the young men, who do they look up to at this point?
I think probably Johnny O'Brien. He's a difference maker. His intangibles. He's a leader. So I think our young kids, they look up to one of our own, Johnny O'Brien.
Oh, that's
So,
really nice.
He's just that figurehead in the community.
Yeah, yeah. And for those who are seeing you and seeing this team and the magical run that you all are on, props for that, you all have gotten to 6-0. That is no small feat for sure. And they're wanting to play for you one day. What are the things that you would say to a young man who says, I want to play for Coach Sponsel one day?
Just keep at it. Play multiple sports. Make sure you get your work done in the classroom. We have a very competitive school, so make sure you stay on top. I mean, we talk about leaving a legacy, not just on the field, but and in the classroom. So just be a well-rounded, great person that puts the time in and really put the time into your craft.
Okay. Now, I know you have to have like a hype type of something to say to your team before they go out on the field. Can you give me a bit of a preview?
Well, I can tell you what I say to our whole community on our Instagram and everyone in our community. It's game day!
Hey, I like it. It is game day. Coach Sponsel, thanks so much for your time and your energy.
Anytime.
All right, best of luck in the rest of your season. We'll see what happens tonight.
All right, thank you.
All right, it's 2 o'clock, everybody. We're back after this. Welcome back, everyone. While we have talked a lot about different things that are happening here at home, of course, there is a major story developing right now over in the Middle East. I want to take you to a live picture from Israel, where there are celebrations that are taking place right now as so many people are awaiting the release of hostages over this weekend that's expected to take place. The Israeli military now says that a ceasefire is in effect in Gaza. They are pulling back forces as they have agreed to do in part with this deal that's now taken place that President Trump helped to put into place between Israel and the Palestinian, or Hamas, really, organization. You know, we've also seen, as we see this view today, we've also seen Palestinians walking miles to get back to the Gaza Strip, to get back to the area that they left. If you really think back, what day is today? We're on October 10th. So let's think back to 2 years ago, October 7th, when all of this really went into a very different phase. People would say that, you know, people have fought for hundreds of years, but October 7th of 2023 is a day that few will ever forget, whether they are in this region or miles away. What we saw on that day when Hamas descended down into a music festival and took the lives of about 1,200 Israelis that were young people just having a good time that day, and what we have seen since. Somewhere around 66,000 Palestinians that have lost their lives in this ongoing war. There's just been so much bloodshed, so much consternation, so much tension, that these moments of joy, I'm sure, are moments that are being cherished for sure. Obviously, with a new deal that's just been announced and just been reached, there's still some wonder, some question as to whether everything will be followed to the letter of the word that has been given, how much the officials can trust Hamas in actually delivering the hostages that are still in their custody. I believe there's about 20 that are still alive, and there are 45 bodies that they still have of people. And these families have waited so long to see their loved ones. So many have been released over that time period and malnourished when we've seen them step on stages like a stage that we're looking at right now, when we've seen them step on stages and their families can barely recognize them because they have been so malnourished in the time that they have been in captivity. But again, there are also bodies, about 45 bodies that they have been holding, Hamas has been holding during this time as well. So for those families who have been holding out hope, holding out faith that they would see their loved ones alive one day, again, there are about 20 of those families who may see their relative by Monday, and for the others who just want to be able to give some dignity to their loved ones' remains, there are about 45 other bodies that should be turned over as well. We're going to continue to watch and see. Again, this is a live look to Israel that we've been watching, where they are celebrating this moment, still a moment that there's relief, but also a lot of questions as to whether we will see the release of these hostages, the release in the next 72 hours or so, but a developing situation there overseas that many are watching for sure. You know, obviously, the weather has been another big talker all week, and as we go into the weekend, I want to bring in one of our own from Fox Weather, who is going to talk a little bit more about a particular system or series of systems that we have watched for quite some time. We're going to Fox Weather to talk about a nor'easter that's expected to hit over the weekend. Let's listen into a bit of this.
all of Long Island, southern New York, really getting the wind, and also Cape and the Islands here. This is Monday morning. Now, let's go to Tuesday, and you see it slowly lets up on Monday, and then the wind changes. Still in New England, getting strong winds along the coast, Nantucket, Martha's Vineyard, up to the outer Cape. All of that under the strong winds, but notice it's backing off here. Now the wind is blowing out the water out of New York Harbor, backing off some of these inland bays, although still it's going to take a while on Monday until we get to Monday night, really, before this begins to let up in a lot of the big cities. So travel problems, all kind of problems there up and down the East Coast. So we have these various coastal flood alerts. If you live anywhere near the ocean or the bays or the rivers or inlets that go out to the ocean, be aware of what the flooding threat is in your area, because it's very variable up and down the coast. There you see it in Florida. Here it is up in North Carolina. For whatever reason, they don't have them issued for Charleston, but they are talking about major flood stage at high tide into tomorrow and maybe even after tomorrow. So just going to keep an eye on that. Folks in the low country there understand what the flood threat is in your specific area. And then all the way up to the northeast, all the way to north of Boston, up toward Newburyport, up to the New Hampshire line, there are flood alerts there as well. Again, know what it is in your area. Some places up to 3 to 4 feet above normal high tide. That'll make a lot of low-lying areas flood with salt water. You don't want to drive through that. So this is all nasty stuff. Okay, and as far as the rain, yes, significant rain, up to 5 inches of rain in some spots in this corridor right along the coast and maybe inland to almost to Philadelphia, almost to I-95. But the earth is very dry. It's been kind of drought kind of condition along the coast. So the issue here really is if the tide is high and it rains on a street that drains into the river or the bay or some other waterway, then they can't drain, so you get street flooding. But in terms of the rain and the ground, there should be plenty of room to take this rain. So it's going to be right along the coast where you have that kind of drainage system that relies on the tide being low enough in order for the water to drain out. So they kind of a different kind of thing there. Okay, here we are with Tropical Storm Jerry. Let's just check on the tropics here. Thankfully, no significant threats to land, 50-mile-an-hour winds, 1,006 millibars. The only thing with Jerry is, and we talked about this yesterday, the worst of it up here missed the islands just, but it has this strong moisture tail here and maybe 6 inches of rain some spots. Heavy rain. Antigua had flooding and Barbuda was under threat. That kind of corridor there in the northeastern Caribbean still. And it looks like pushing over later over toward the Virgin Islands here might get in on that tail rain, which will be pretty significant. But the storm itself is going to go north and then hang a right. It does not look like any kind of significant event in Bermuda and on out to sea, and then it's going to merge with a front out there. So that will be that. And then we have this kind of strange system here. In fact, strange enough that there is nothing like it in the record book. Never a named storm this far north and east, and it got named Subtropical Storm Karen. It's a big upper-level low-pressure system sitting right there, and this happens sometimes. There you see it. Sun is going down, but you can make out the thunderstorms relatively near the center. It's subtropical because they're not concentrated around the center. There's no eye, and it's under a big upper-level low-pressure system, but enough to meet the definition of a subtropical storm, and it used up the name Karen. By the way, this is the kind of storm that Superstorm Sandy was. It was a nor'easter with a tropical system in the middle of it, and then the tropical system finally got absorbed just before.
Okay, we've been listening in there to some of the things that are happening in the tropics, and then also a system that is headed right for the East Coast. So if you have some plans over the weekend and you're getting out of Chicago, maybe you're going to be flying towards the East Coast, make sure you take note, call ahead, just make sure that your travel won't be interrupted. We even saw travel delays here this week because of the government shutdown. There was a ground delay at O'Hare earlier this week because they didn't have air traffic traffic controllers, some people that had called out. Obviously, we're in day 10, I believe, of the government shutdown right now. So they were having some effects from that on air travel. It could now be complicated because of the weather, which is something that we can't control. So just make sure you check ahead if you're going to be traveling. Coming up after the break, we're going to bring in Paris Schutz. He is out there at the ICE facility in Broadview, and we're going to talk to him a little bit about what's been taking place there today. 2:15. If you are just joining us here online in our 2 o'clock hour, you missed at the beginning of our show at the 1 o'clock hour. We took you to Broadview, the ICE facility there, where Senators Durbin and Duckworth were speaking to some of the protesters who have been out there week after week, and also the reporters that came with some pretty tough questions for them. Let's go ahead. Paris Schutz was right there in the middle of it. Paris, I heard you asking your question to them about where the troops are going to go now that there's been a block to their deployment.
Yeah, Anita, that's an open question here. You know, we want to see if the Trump administration is following the court order. As we can see, there aren't any National Guard troops visible, at least here in Broadview. But I think with the court order, they are allowed, obviously, to travel within the state, within the region. You heard Kwame Raoul say yesterday, hey, they're welcome to go try our restaurants and stay at a hotel and enjoy Chicago, but they just can't be deployed on an official mission during this temporary restraining order. The other issue at hand is that fencing. Another court order ruled that they have to take the fence down, that it's blocking public safety personnel here in Broadview. And they have, at 2 o'clock today, the Trump administration was supposed to respond in court. So, you know, it's kind of an open question when that fence is going to be taken down. And then, you know, the two senators, they were touring the facility, or they were outside meeting with protesters, but they were turned down from being able to tour the facility, which is something Durbin says has never happened in the 20 years this facility's been around. He's at times been able to go in there and check it out. And these days, no one's allowed in there. And he says they must be hiding something.
Yeah, I heard them when they were saying that. And they also mentioned feeling like the military was being exploited. Talk a little bit more about the fact that these are just everyday citizens who get called up into service. I mean, they have signed up for it, but they get called into service. And the fact that so many of them came from Texas.
Yeah. I mean, these are everyday citizens, like you said, from all walks of life. They have jobs, they have families. Some of them are even in politics. Our own candidate for lieutenant governor on the Democratic ticket with J.B. Pritzker, Christian Mitchell, is a reservist, and he gets called every now and then. And, they get called typically to go overseas during overseas conflicts to assist. And so that's what they train for. And you saw Senator Tammy Duckworth saying this is not what they want to do. They want to be training for overseas missions and not, just kind of hanging around with nothing to do. And so she believes it's disrespectful to the troops. And so, yes, we've had a couple hundred from Texas, another 100 from Illinois, and then about 14 or so from California. As I'm crossing 25th Street here, trying to get my phone's about to die, so I need to get some power for my phone. So that's the and some neighbors here annoyed with the pesky press. Good to see you.
Yeah, and in weeks past, 25th Street has been where we have seen a lot more activity.
Yeah, so we're just talking to some neighbors, some residents that I've seen a couple days here, and it's a lot quieter today. They say there aren't as many protesters. It's a lot of law enforcement, mostly state and local, and a lot of media, including a lot of content creators, independent media with their own kind of setups and their own podcasts and YouTube channels and stuff like that. It's a content creation bonanza. So that's the scene right now today. It looks like, it's going to be fairly quiet. Fridays have tended to get a little chaotic, but
yeah,
it's a very calm scene right now.
And there's a combination of factors as to why it looks a lot different today. Thank you so much, Paris. We appreciate it. You be safe out there, and we'll see you.
My phone, I'm on about 1%, but thank you. Tune in.
Go get that phone charged. We'll see you at 4 o'clock. All right, everyone. So as we were speaking to Paris, we did have a developing situation that was going on in Tennessee. I want to see if maybe we can go back to that. Let's listen in here.
They have discontinued operations. They're focusing on their families, their employees. They're focusing on the next things that they need to do to try to make everything best for their people. We've got critical incident folks on the scene. I'm just sitting here trying to think through the scene. We got the critical incident people here for the families, as well as some of the first responders. For those of you that don't know, it was about 7:45 a.m. this morning that this explosion happened. We had a really amazing response from the first responders, fire, and here again I commend those first responders because it was multiple jurisdictions. They worked together, they got the situation under control very quickly and safely. And when you see or when you pull up to the things that they were seeing and doing and having to do at the time, they done very, very well. And anybody any questions?
Sir, you mentioned the word souls earlier. Can you tell us how many people have lost their lives?
I can tell you that we've had, there are fatalities. Do I want to put a number to that? Because I always, and those of you that have known me in the past, I always wish for the best. Is there a possibility that somebody might be injured somewhere or somebody that we don't know about? Yes. I can tell you right now that we're looking for 19 individuals. And a lot of times when I have this types of situation, I refer to them more than just a person. They're a soul to me. So we're trying to, I can tell you that we're missing 19 souls right now.
Sheriff, I was wondering how many people were working at the time and how many people were taken to the hospital.
I don't think there was, I think 4 to 5 individuals that was taken, maybe even by POV. I can't talk about the ambulance part of that. And forgive me for some of those early questions and not being able to answer them. We've concentrated so hard on getting the scene secured, getting things moving, taking care of basically the security, getting the personnel that we need here, that I can't answer some of those early questions. So forgive me for that. I don't want to give the appearance that I'm avoiding that.
Have you had a chance to see the building, and can you describe it?
Can I describe the building? There's nothing to describe. It's gone. It's again, it's the most devastating scene that I've seen in my career.
Sheriff, do you know what kind of work they did in that building specifically?
I do not, ma'am. I do not. I'm not familiar with the day-to-day operations of that.
I see a lot of family members, they're waiting. Are they waiting for confirmation about if their family member is missing, or what communication are you having with them right now?
We have communicated with the family. We've done it twice. We wanted to get some solid information because we were sliding a little bit in information that we were receiving and from past experience from the flood and those kind of things, that we wanted to make sure that we had the information, the correct information that we needed to talk with. So yes, we have spoke with families. Again, Accurate Energetics is taking care of those families and trying to do everything that we can to comfort them and get them the information as quick as we have.
I know it's early in the investigation, but does it appear it's accidental or intentional?
Can't answer that. And it's something, that's a good question, and the reason I say that's a good question, in law enforcement we have one opportunity, and that's the reason why you see a lot of things that we have to do in law enforcement. We have to make the worst assumption. We have to make that and prove it away that it is an accident. So we only have one chance at the evidence. We only have one thing or one chance to be able to do the things that we need to do, and we're going to be slow, methodical, and diligent and do everything that we can to make sure this is what it is. And there again, we're working for those families and those people that were in that building to make sure we get, if they deserve justice, we want to be in a situation that we get them justice. And that's how we have to approach these situations.
Okay, and there was another report that there was a destructive explosion in 2014 in the same building that was operated by Rio Ammunition. Can you confirm that and tell me if there's some kind of trend going on here?
Rio was on the facility. That did happen here. I was here during that time. I don't believe that it was at that current facility at all. Yes, ma'am. You had a question.
That was my question. Is do you have any information about a previous explosion at this facility?
Well, see, you have to remember, this is a huge compound, and there's a couple of different businesses that may operate within this facility. So I don't want to get into too much to the operation of the facility because they are a very delicate operation, and we have to maintain that.
Sheriff, I had heard some comments earlier about fallout outside the campus area from the blast early on.
Yes, sir.
Is that something you can confirm?
There may be some debris that went over the fence. I don't think that we're too far from one of the property lines, and there may be some debris that's on another property here.
You said the scene was secure. Does that mean it's stable and first responders have access?
It means that the scene is stable. The ATF and the FBI are on that. They are methodically moving through the location of the explosion.
Sheriff, I'm not sure if you know this, but was at 7:45 was the plant up and running, or were people just arriving for work? Do you have any idea?
I believe the plant was up and running. Last question.
Have you been able to speak to any families directly, and if so, what are you telling those families?
We have spoke with the families directly, and we told them that we're going to be very transparent with them and get them the information and try to answer every question that they have the best we can. It's again, it's going to be a very slow process. Sheriff Kraft, do you want to?
Did the department say that they called you guys or jump or calling in? How did that work? Because I saw a lot of people, a lot of different departments.
May I ask you a favor? Would you repeat that louder, please?
A lot of different departments have showed up here. Did you guys contact them or did they contact you?
We contacted him. I think Sheriff Kraft and I both got information about this very quickly. I don't mind telling you from the prior experiences here with the Rio and the questions that y'all had, I immediately picked up the phone and called Commissioner Long, and I said, this is what I've got, this is where I'm going, because we are in a bad cell range, we are in a bad location, and Commissioner and I are personal friends, and he helped me get the agencies here that we needed, and rapidly. So that was one of the things that I'm very thankful to him for that, and that relationship as well. All right, last question, I think I might have said that. Anybody?
Well, Sheriff, I'm curious. I mean, after Waverly, I mean, another tragedy. I mean, just you talked about the beginning, but just how are you feeling? I mean, how's the community doing after another tragedy like this?
My friend, I can't answer that, and forgive me for saying that. I can't answer that right now because he and I and the people from this facility, Mr. Stinson, we've concentrated so much on what is here right now and getting this stable, secure, and taking care of the people here that I hadn't been able to have any kind of feedback from the community. So I'm sure that I'll start hearing some things. We'll start interacting with things as time goes through this. And again, this is not going to be, we're going to close this up tonight. It will probably be here 3 or 4 days from now, 5 days from now. It wouldn't surprise me at all if we're here next week. But we're just, you know, again, we got to go slow, methodical. So forgive me, I don't mean to avoid that question, but we just can't, I can't answer it right now because I don't know.
I do have one more question. I know you were kind of being really sympathetic towards the souls that were lost. I am wondering if eventually you are going to let us know how many people have perished.
Yes, ma'am. We will confirm that. And like I can say right now, the list that we have right now, we are missing 19 souls.
But we're not confirming that some of them are just missing. You can't confirm which ones have actually been accounted for.
I could not tell you who's been accounted for.
What are the next steps for you?
Good question. Right now, honestly, we're having to go hour by hour. We're having to take things hour by hour. We're having to take developments that's going on. We're operating this as, for lack of better words, and I don't want to say two different scenes, but we're letting them take care and doing the things that they need up there where the incident occurred. And we're taking that information, compiling what the needs are, and setting goals that we're trying to reach as we go. So to answer that, we're on that hour by hour situation.
When do you think we'll have more firm numbers about the number of people being treated?
Ms. Gray, if you don't mind, what time was we going to come back together? 4 p.m. I'm hoping by 4 p.m. that we can be able to tell you more information about that. So it's there again, it's not that I'm avoiding it, it's that we're getting information as we go, and that's why I want to try to maybe do these every hour or every couple of hours to be able to answer your questions. Okay? Again,
is there some kind of list of missing people that we could potentially access? There was this one woman that told me her son was on that missing people list. I don't know if that's something that the media is privy to.
I don't have that available for the media at this time, and we're still working with that. There again, because there's some of the delicate information, we're trying to confirm that every family's been notified, and we've got 110% have got to make sure that that's happened. You know, the Sheriff Kraft and I have even said if there's somebody that we can't get a hold of, we're going to send officers and along with accurate, energetic staff to make sure that we go out and find that. So, excuse me, we're trying everything we can do to take care of the people. Fair enough?
Chris, in years past, you've asked people to help in different aspects. Is there anything we can do to assist?
Burton, I really appreciate you commenting on that. In putting things out here, we had some early pictures that was released, and man, I'm just asking you to be mindful of these families. This is a huge ordeal. It's a very devastating ordeal, and I'm not talking about devastating on the scene. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about devastating in the fact of a loved one that just come to work and now may be missing or deceased. So please keep that in mind when you're having or doing these stories. You know, these stories, we often find ways that we try to turn things into negative. This is a bad situation. This is a negative situation. But there's no reason for us to take the downward spiral or the downward side of this story when it comes to these families. So I'm all about that, and I'll always be about that. I think Sheriff and I both will always be about that. So, thank y'all. I appreciate it.
And we have been listening in there to a very sad news conference there. They have a serious situation that's taken place there in McEwen, Tennessee. That was the Humphreys County Sheriff Chris Davis who was speaking about an explosion that took place this morning at a Tennessee military munitions plant, of all places, a military munitions plant that's left several people dead. He says they are still looking for 19 people. So he's not giving much information in terms of how many people are injured, how many people are deceased, but he does say there are those who are deceased and those 19 who are still unaccounted for right now. One of the reporters asked about the stability of the building at this point. What is the condition of the building that all of them were in at this point? And he said there is nothing to describe about the building because it's gone, and that they are just going hour by hour trying to operate this investigation right now. The company's website says that it makes and tests explosives at an 8-building facility. It sprawls across a wooded hills area in the Bucksnort area. It's about 60 miles southwest of Nashville, and 20 miles away, people could feel the blast that took place there. In fact, it's reported that the first responders couldn't even get in for quite some time because there were a series of detonations that started to take place there. So the cause of the explosion still unknown at this point in time. Again, they're in the early stages of this investigation there, but they say that there's no further danger of explosions in that area. Very, very tragic situation that's taken place there in McEwen, Tennessee. 19 people who are still missing right now, and we know that there are many who are deceased as well. They are expecting to come back with another update maybe around 4 o'clock, and we're not sure if McEwen's time is our time or if they're on the East Coast, but we'll keep an eye on that, and if they do come back with any more information, we'll try to go back there live, but just have them in your thoughts and your prayers if that is what you do. It's 2:36 right now. We're going to talk a little bit more about what's happening here at home. One of our finest just walked in the door. We have Mark Strail, meteorologist, who is here to tell you about your weekend weather. I know there's so much going on, and so we'll talk to him when we come back. TGIF, we have made it to the weekend.
Yes,
maybe
we have.
just barely, but we're here. And we are seeing some nice fall-like weather
Yeah.
out there now, Mark.
Nice for a change, isn't it? I mean, because it has been so warm.
Summer was hanging.
It was hanging on, and I got to tell you, it's been a long, hot summer, long, hot, dry summer. We have temperatures that are going to be falling back down into the 60s and some 70s here over the next couple of days, and we get into the 70s as we go into basically Sunday and into Monday, and then 60s after that. But lots of sunshine around, so 70 degrees. That's fairly warm for a marathon, right?
Sure is.
But that'll be our daytime high, and we'll start out with temperatures around 50 degrees, actually in the upper 40s, low 50s. So at game time when it starts, right, when the starter's pistol goes off, we'll be feeling pretty good. It'd just be nice for marathon runners to hold on to those temperatures a little bit longer.
And you know what? I think all marathoners become meteorologists the week.
Oh my goodness, right?
Of your run, because you're like every day you're like you've got to see what's going on. You got to see the conditions.
Right.
I've seen runners out kind of getting their shakeout runs this morning as we give you this live look outside. I think my first marathon, and
Your
I know
first.
I've
How
done
many have
I've
you
done
done?
just two.
Okay,
I've done
well, that's
two fulls, 2 halves.
2 more than me.
But my first one, I think I got the ideal, which was the ideal temperature for a marathon to start is about 48 degrees.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah.
You're cool, but you're not like frigid.
Yep.
You got enough time to like layer up and then like shed it.
Right.
And then I want to say it was maybe 72 by the time it finished, and it was
Okay.
hot. Your
Hot
body
at that
temperature is
point, right?
usually 20 degrees over
Wow.
the temperature outside.
Yeah, so you're starting to cook a little bit. I've covered the start of the marathon many years here in Chicago, and I was always amazed at the start where everyone just sheds all of their jackets, and there's like piles of runner athletic wear.
We help the homeless.
That's right,
Yeah.
and that was always the question: where's all that stuff going? And well, it goes to a greater cause. So that's what I love about events like this. There's always a story behind the story.
Oh yeah, when I was training, the ultra marathoner who helped me to train, she said, "Wear some things that you don't mind giving away."
Yeah.
Tell you don't want to like shed that Nike and
Right.
put it right there unless you're okay with just giving it away.
Tell me about ultra marathons. How far is that?
So the ultra marathoner that helped me get to my first marathon, that was a warm up for her.
Oh, I'm sure.
She was getting ready for a 123-mile race.
In one time.
Race.
Yeah, at one
race.
time.
I think you have like 24 hours. Yeah, but yes,
Oh,
it's
24 hours.
all at once. But yeah, I think
Give
you
me
have
24
like 24
days.
hours to finish
I
it.
have.
Listen, I never aspire to be on that level, but she's amazing, and I'm so grateful that she helped me out.
That is
so
incredible.
Do you think that we're in full fall now, or are we still possibly in faux fall?
Full fall. I like that. Well, we're getting to be the point where we're heading towards the middle of October. So we will have some more warm temperatures coming up. We will likely be back in you can see the 70s there, Sunday into Monday. I would.
You think the 80s are behind us?
It's going to be harder to hit the 80s at this point. Not to say that we couldn't hit an 80 or an 81. I mean, that can happen even in November on weird occasions. But at that point, you're almost celebrating it because it's already cooled off a little bit. But it's harder and harder to achieve that for a couple of reasons. The daylight hours shrink.
Okay.
And also the sun angle is a little lower to the horizon, so we don't get the full warming rays of the sun as we would in the middle of summer. So, I think we're going to have a nice little cool down here. You see temperatures back up into the 60s for daytime highs. 64 degrees is pretty close to our normal. And now we get to get used to fall because it has been summertime.
And I don't see rain in this forecast. Is rain needed right now?
Oh yeah, we can. To the point, I've got to tell you, I was out driving a combine this week with my friend. We were out on the farm harvesting corn, and I was commenting to him that, at this point, my thought is farmers don't want to see any rain because you don't want to have rain when you're harvesting. And he's like, oh no, at this point, we want it no matter what. We'll take a couple of days off. We still want some rain. So, yeah, I mean, there's still the need for rain. We're in drought and drought-like conditions across all of our part of the Midwest.
All right. Well, we want some help for our farmers out there for sure.
Yes, we do.
We're going to hold on to this and appreciate it. And, of course, we appreciate you, sir.
Well, thank you very much. Good to see you.
Thank you so much. We were talking about marathon conditions, and we have one heck of a marathoner on the line right now. Nancy, are you there? Can you hear me? I think you might be on mute, Nancy. Oh man, we're gonna give her a second. She is on, but we need to see her and hear from her. Again, giving you this live look outside right now. I saw so many people doing their shakeout runs, and it gives you such great vibes when you see them out there, and you think to yourself, oh, I remember marathon weekend. It was so wonderful. And you have to keep in mind once you get past it, like, the work that it took to get there. When you're out there sweating in June and July, and you've got an 18-mile run to do in August, all of those things you have to keep in mind. And so you can't get swept up in the nostalgia of finally getting to this moment and thinking like, oh yeah, I want to hop out there next. It is a journey to get to that point for sure. And Nancy knows all about the journey. So we were asking her if she could join us today from the Marathon Expo and Packet Pickup, and just as long or just as soon as we get her fully on here, we're going to talk to her a little bit about her journey. And when I say her journey, she has run, let me see this. She has run so many different marathons, and she's 74 and still going. She is goals, and that's why we put in the call to ask her if she would join us today. Obviously, there are so many different marathoners from all over the world who are here in our area, who are at that marathon packet pickup, so she might just be having some issues there. Maybe it's just the cell signal in there, because there are so many people who are doing packet pickup today. But again, marathoners from all around the world. We were looking out at the beam even earlier today, and you could see some groups that were getting together for their shakeout runs, and they had on coordinated outfits and things of that nature. It's just a magical weekend here in the city of Chicago every year that we get to experience the Chicago Marathon. As a part of the series, some people go to New York and London. I believe Australia has joined in the series now, and Boston, of course, and they just changed their parameters for getting into Boston, and it's super competitive to get into Boston. But a lot of people come here to run because of what you're seeing right now, not just the beauty of our city. And I do believe Chicago Marathon takes you through 29 neighborhoods, if I'm not mistaken. I think we ran through 29 neighborhoods. But how flat it is. It's one thing that helps a lot of people come here to try to get a personal best or a Boston qualifying time. We have seen world records that were set here, and we definitely see the pros come and show out each and every year. Do we have Nancy now? Still no Nancy. Okay. All right. So again, she is the coach for the Evanston Running Club. What were you saying, Perry? Okay. She is the coach for the Evanston Running Club. And just as soon as we can get her on, if we can, we're going to go to her live. It's 2:48 though. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll see if we can get things coordinated and come back. 250, we still don't have Nancy yet, but we do have Chris K, a part of our sports team here at Fox 32, now joining us to talk Cubs and to talk Bears. Man, it's a great time in the city.
It's a great time in the city, definitely. We're looking to a Game 5 winner take all do or die tomorrow. Woo! So if the anxiety isn't enough, we have a rematch with the Commanders coming up on Monday Night Football. If you remember the Hail Mary last year, there's just so much happening this weekend, I tell you.
Yeah, that Hail Mary took a lot of breath out of us. So we're hoping Jaden Daniels doesn't try a repeat performance of that, and maybe we have something that's ready for them. Are we healthy? Are the Bears healthy?
Actually, the Bears are pretty healthy. They kind of gave us a little bit of a scare yesterday. They had an estimated injury report where 4 players were estimated that they wouldn't practice. Jaquan Brisker was one of them. Joe Tooney was another. I think Darnell Wright, was another one. But all of those guys, except for Grady Jarrett, practiced today. So a lot of those guys, some of those guys are limited. A lot of those guys did practice. Kyle Monungai was questionable yesterday, but now he fully practiced today. I expect him to be questionable for the game on Monday. I'm really looking forward to seeing what tomorrow's practice report holds, because that'll give us a clearer idea of who might be playing and who might be out come Monday night.
Yeah, we're coming out of a bye week. Tell me about some of the things that they focused on in the bye week.
I think it was just, I guess, going forward with the offensive scheme. We got to talk to the offensive assistant coaches today here at Hallis Hall. And I was talking to Press Taylor, the passing game coordinator, and he said, we're just trying to find data points that we can focus on to kind of improve the offense, to push forward, to kind of take the next step, because the first 2 games of the season weren't what the team wanted to be. Against Detroit, it was wildly inconsistent. Against Minnesota, they really tailed off in the second half there. They wanted to find a way to play a complete 40-minute game, and they did against Dallas, and they did very well against the Raiders, especially in the fourth quarter when the chips were down. And I think it's just about finding the things that worked and fine-tuning those to the point where those are the things that they can go forward with in the second half of the season, because we're not even halfway through the season. Right. The bye week came very early. I think the team is a little bit grateful for that. They got to heal up some injuries that they had, but also they got to look at things that worked. They got to fine-tune the things that really worked, especially when you go to the Raiders game, where there were so many parts of the passing game that started to evolve, the communication, but also the anticipation was there too, and it was really starting to shine. And that's what the Bears really need.
Yeah, I went to that Allegiant Stadium there in Las Vegas in August for a game. I think it was the Raiders and the Niners, and that stadium is a sight to behold. And as I understand it, we might have something like that in the works, because the same people who built it could be looking to help the Bears.
That's actually very true. It's the same exact group with a very similar looking stadium. And I know a lot of people were saying, but it's like a copycat. But at the end of the day, I was living out west when they were building that stadium out in Allegiant Stadium out in Las Vegas. And every time you'd go by it, you start to see little pieces go up. And now it just stands there. And you can tell it's clearly a state-of-the-art facility. There's so much around it. There's so much that's built around it. There's parking lots that make it accessible. There's so many things that are near it too. The amenities don't really stop. There's just so many of them. And I think that's a good thing. I think it's a good thing that they looked at this and they said, we want that too. We can give you the same thing. And I know people want to see a unique thing in Arlington Heights, but I think having this, especially in a domed stadium where the Bears can control the weather, they don't have to worry about snow. They can give fans an optimal experience, but also host things like the Super Bowl, Final Fours, and all that kind of stuff too. That's exactly what this is meant to be. This is meant to do, and I think it's going to be exciting to watch it come to life.
Yeah, make some things that are unique for sure. But I'll tell you, in terms of copying, the week before that, I was out at Soldier Field and I got a sunburn, and then I went to Allegiant and I was like, wait a minute, am I sitting here watching a football game with the AC? Yes, please copy that. Please copy that. The seats were nice and there was AC for the game. Let's talk about the Cubs. You talked about things that the Bears were trying to fine tune. What do the Cubs need to fine tune?
Oh goodness, it's so hard to talk about what they need to do, because this is Game 5. It's winner take all, do or die. This is one of the greatest things in sports, especially when you have a moment where all the things just kind of reset. They all have a level playing field now. And the Brewers came out the first 2 games of the series and they really took control. They seized the moment, and the Cubs were able to do that the last 2 games at Wrigley Field. And I think it's going to come down to who can make one or two more plays than the other. And I think the Cubs have an opportunity to do that, especially with the way that their pitching staff has pitched the last two games, where they had Jameson Taillon pitch last Wednesday, and Matthew Boyd pitched last night too, which they're just fantastic outings that really helped the Cubs kind of forge ahead, but also not go too deep into their bullpen. I think that's going to start to look a little bit different, because the Brewers were the opposite. Their starting pitchers didn't go too far before getting called into the bullpen. And they used a ton of pitchers, especially that Quinn Priester game on Wednesday. They used, I believe it was like 5 or 6 pitchers. And when you're going that deep, you're using some pitchers to stay in the game in one game, but down the line that might pay off on the negative end too. And guys don't have some of the stuff that they used to have. But I think it all comes down to momentum, and the Cubs have a lot of it right now. Mm-hmm. And I think if we might see some Cubs fans make the trip up to Milwaukee, like they like to call it Wrigley North. I know Milwaukee, especially the Brewers, just really don't like that.
Right.
But I think we might see a lot of that come to fruition up in Milwaukee on Saturday.
Yeah, for sure. When you talk about momentum, like the home atmosphere, there just can't be enough said about it. When you're playing at home, talk about some of the people that maybe had a question mark, like, Shota had some rough games there. Talk about some of the people that had a question mark, because I believe that, true champions show up in the moments when your back is up against the wall.
That's true, especially with Shota. It's a guy that pitched so well last year that the first part of the season struggled a little bit. Then it kind of leveled out in the June. But then when he got hurt and came back from it, he's been kind of going back to what he was in the first part of the season. I know there's some of his pitches that are kind of floating outside as opposed to just going straight down. And the control has to just be a little bit on point there, especially in the playoffs. But I think when you look at Shota, this is an opportunity for him to go out and do what he was brought to Chicago to do. And he was brought here to be that ace pitcher in some of these key moments. But I wouldn't be surprised to see a guy like Colin Ray get the baseball on Saturday. I think this is a guy that didn't pitch yesterday. I don't think he pitched on Wednesday either. And he's been fresh. He hasn't really been used. And I think this is a guy that could go out there. He's been a really dependable pitcher. He's been pitching very well. I think he's one of the unsung heroes of the bullpen. And I think he deserves a chance to go out there and just give it all he's got, especially in a winner-take-all situation where if he pitches really well and you give him the ball there, and he goes with 3 or 4 innings of really good pitching, kind of limit the Brewers. And then you can bring a guy like Shota who can go maybe another 3 to 4 innings. And there's a real pathway there where you only have to use 1 or 2 more pitchers to really close out the game too. That opens up a lot with Daniel Palencia, with Drew Pomeranz. You can use different guys in different situations. You can go at 1 batter at a time as opposed to an inning at a time. And I know there's a lot of talk of, hey, maybe they can activate Cade Horton, probably the rookie of the year in the NL. But I don't know if that's the viable option for a guy that really hasn't pitched very much in 3 months, or the last 3 weeks. But I think right now this Cubs team has a lot of momentum by them, and I think they have guys like Matthew Boyd had a question mark coming into last night's game, and he shot up a lot of people with his really dominant performance. I think he was 4 2/3 innings pitched. And he fed into the Wrigley crowd. I know that's not the same because they're not at Wrigley Field, but I think there's a lot of players that can step up to the moment and can really help the Cubs seize the day.
Well, let's see him seize the day. Thank you, Chris K. I wasn't meaning to rhyme there, but that's nice. Okay, we want to see him go all the way. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you all for being here online with us today. Good luck to all of the marathoners out there. Sorry we weren't able to get Nancy but to give you some advice, but we're certainly hoping that you go out and you really take in the city, take in those miles, enjoy every bit of it. You have worked so hard. We'll see you back here at 1 o'clock on Monday.
Would reopen the government, this wouldn't be an issue. And what's happened is the White House has to make some very serious and difficult decisions as to what's essential and what's not. If you want to end it, Chuck Schumer, reopen the government.
So, sir, your understanding is the White House will continue with that funding when the government reopens?
I would suggest that you call Tina Smith and ask her why she wants to keep the government shut down and put all this at risk.
Is there a breaking point, like 2 paychecks missed, 3 paychecks, 4 paychecks, where you all change your strategy and say we're going to bring House Republicans back and negotiate before the government's reopened?
I would like you to ask that identical question to Chuck Schumer. We have done the work in the House. We are awaiting them to do theirs. This is a 2-body, 2-chamber legislative body. Okay, the House did its work. The House and Senate Republicans have repeatedly affirmed that. You saw the chart. 8 times now, they have voted to get the government open and get troops paid and federal civilian workers paid. Democrats have dug their heels in and said, no, 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 over and over. They're the ones blocking the checks, not Republicans. All these questions should be directed to them and not to us. That is how this works. Thank you all for being here.
And the shutdown showdown continues on Capitol Hill and will likely extend into next week. We will definitely be keeping an eye on all of the developments, or maybe lack thereof developments, that come from these negotiations that seem to have stalled right now. All right, everyone. Hi, everyone. Mike Page here. Thanks again for joining us on Live Now from Fox. A new hour here, 4 o'clock on the East Coast, 1 o'clock on the West Coast. We want to continue to give you updates on our really top story of the day. 19 people are missing in this major explosion at a Tennessee plant facility. Just take a look, some of the aerials, and you can just see the severe damage and really the building that is no longer there right now. We want to continue to get the updates right now on the ground, and that is where we find Will Nunley joining us here with the latest. And Will, just such a sad circumstance being played out right now in Tennessee.
Yeah, this is one of those rare circumstances where, because of my location, I actually witnessed and felt this explosion when it happened at about 7:45 this morning. That's when the initial call went out. And then emergency crews from across this area started converging near McEwen, Tennessee, and Humphreys County, Tennessee, where all this is unfolding, and you can see the result of it there on your screen. This is the Accurate Energetics plant. It is on a campus of about 2,000 acres, set back for a reason because of the nature of work that they do. They provide explosives to the Defense Department for military use and also for private civilians. You can imagine things like blasting in construction zones and things like that, and what this company does. And there were employees on site. This was in the middle of a work day for them. A shift was going on at one of these laboratories. There are several different buildings on this campus. This was building 6, we're told, where these employees were present. About 19 are unaccounted for. The sheriff just gave an update. The sheriff of Humphreys County just gave us an update moments ago where he's asking for us for prayers for these families that are wanting to hear word from their loved ones. But when you can imagine a debris field of what you're seeing there on your screen, there just is no surviving a catastrophic explosion like that. And I can't even really underscore for you enough just how powerful this blast was. This was felt nearly an hour away from the site. So there were so many people that experienced this when it jolted people awake when this happened. And then, of course, as we began to arrive on the scene within minutes, we saw what was left behind. Right now, they're in the process of trying to reunite a lot of these families and get them information and get them, the latest of what they know. But the sheriff says, quite frankly, this is going to be a lengthy investigation. It's going to take some time to understand what was behind all of this. They don't have really an explanation right now. And there are a few people who were treated for injuries who were brought in from personal vehicles that began to drive away from the scene. We understand there are about 4 people there, but the majority, 19 people, still being classified as unaccounted for at this hour.
Yeah, very, very troubling there, especially with the families that are still missing their loved ones and unable to communicate and now fearing the very worst. Will, what can you tell us, though? I'm interested to hear what you have to say. What was the explosion felt like when you were on the ground there in Tennessee? And just kind of paint that picture for our audience here.
Yeah, it was almost like a loud boom. I'd almost thought that, because I live not too far from a highway, and I thought that maybe an 18-wheeler had crashed into a pole or had run off the road and exploded. And there were several subsequent like aftershocks, for lack of a better term. But you felt several different waves of this. I spoke to a witness on the scene who was not far from the blast site on his private property in a deer stand. And he said the shockwave nearly blew him out of that tree. He had to hold on to the tree and brace himself. He said that was just how powerful